Welcome to Francis Quilts, the site dedicated to the wonderful art of quilting, with a few other fun things thrown in as well. If you like what you see here, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so that you can be notified of future videos. Hey guys, welcome back to Francis Quilts. Today we are looking at the second part of a series about using your straight edge ruler in free motion quilting. Last week we talked about how to use a straight edge ruler when you are stitching in the ditch. And although I swore that it wouldn't work, I proved that it would. And so you might want to go back and have a look at that video. I will include a link at the end of this video and then also in the show notes for you. Today we are going to be using that same straight edge ruler to quilt echo lines that are 1/4 of an inch apart. Now that's pretty close, but I have a technique that works really well for doing that. And you may say, well, that's very simple to do. You just butt the edge of the ruler up against the previous line and quilt along it. Well, I have a problem because I am very right hand dominant, and I really like having that ruler in my right hand. And then also, as I'm going to show you in the video, I have a little bit of an issue with my machine when I put the ruler on the left-hand side. So I had to figure out a way that I could quilt these seams with always having the ruler on the right-hand side. And I think my method works really well and is very easy to do. So let's go to the video and I'll show you how it works. So I have sewn this first stitching line this way, and I'm wanting to do 1/4 of an inch stitching all the way across, coming all the way this direction and then headed back the other direction. Obviously, when we have our line right there, it's very easy to just put this ruler up here. If we're going 1/4 of an inch, that means we're going to line the edge of the ruler up with the stitching line, because we know that it is 1/4 of an inch from the needle to the outside of that of the outside of the presser foot. So let's stitch that very carefully, quickly. Again, I'm just lining up the edge of the ruler with the edge of the stitching. I just barely see the stitching under there. Okay, so that gives me a great 1/4 inch spacing between those two lines. Now, as I said in the intro, I am right hand dominant. I prefer to hold my ruler in my right hand rather than in my left hand. A couple of reasons: I'm just right-handed and I think it feels more comfortable there. But also on my particular machine, when the needle is down and the foot is down, because the foot moves up and down as I quilt. When the foot is down, you can see my ruler does not fit all the way up in there. It gets hung up on that little edge right there. So the only way to make sure that I get it all the way there is to really push it in. You can see the difference there. And I just don't like having to do that. That's just, I worry about it. And if I'm not concentrating, then it ends up coming out a little bit. And I just don't like doing that. So while I was doing this 1/4 inch stitching that needed to be coming this direction, I just really did not want to have to be keeping this here in this position. I wanted it over here. So I thought a little bit about how I was going to do it, and this is what I came up with. Much like what we talked about last week with using this ruler, I can use the ruler as a guide and just kind of use it to nudge back and forth to make sure that I'm in the right spot. And so I'm not having to have it butted up against this line, but I can use it as a guide to hold the line straight on this side. Secondly, again, because we know that this edge here is 1/4 of an inch from the needle, it means that I can line the ruler up with that edge right there of the last stitching line that I just did. And then I can use this ruler just to keep me in place. So as I come along and start stitching, you can see the two things are working together. I am making sure that this edge of the foot stays along that line, and this one is just helping me to keep the line straight. So I'm watching, honestly, I'm watching more where the foot is on the left than anything. And if I veered out a little bit and I wanted to come back, I can just push that ruler back over a little bit and get it back in line. And again, the ruler does not have to be straight when you start. You know, if you have it leaning in a little bit, that's not going to hurt, because just as soon as you start stitching, you're going to straighten it out and move it back to where you want it to be. So as you look at this, you can see, except for my intentional veer in here, it kept it a nice 1/4 inch line all the way across. I really think this is a great way for quilting these 1/4 inch lines. And again, if you have a dominant hand or a hand that you really like to have the ruler in, or if you have the same issue that I do with the foot being over here, there are ways to work around that using this 1/4 inch foot. And quilting all of these 1/4 inch echoes has just been a blast to do.
In the past week, I have quilted yards and yards and yards and yards of 1/4 inch echo lines. It has been fun to do, it has been easy to do, and using this method has just made it so much faster to do. I hope this video is helpful to you, and I hope that you have lots of creative time in the upcoming weeks. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time on Frances Quilts.
Remember, if you like what you've seen, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please check out my website and daily blog at francesquilts.com, and I can be found on Facebook and Instagram at Frances Quilts. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope to see you again soon.